What's going on? You're back with Mulla Mulla and Oz. We're gonna do the Australian race recap. So Oz, I'll let you start. Let me just bring up the first banner. Right. So, what was your take on like the race start itself?
I was actually quite surprised. When Verstappen parked his car up to start the race,
Yeah.
he sort of parked at an angle, like he was ready to defend. And I found that quite strange because I thought he's got the faster car. What's he feeling like he needs to defend for? But obviously, he was right. He needed to defend because those Mercs were just, yeah, they were ready to go aggressive on him, weren't they?
Yeah. No,
Um,
I'd say the Mercedes start wise impeccable. Like
yeah,
it was mad. Even with the angle, he was a sitting. It's like he was just a sitting duck. It's like them
yeah,
tires didn't agree with the car.
yeah. And
Um,
then when Hamilton passed him, I found that very like strange and telling. But obviously the tables have switched now. Hamilton's not really fighting for anything, so he could take that risk of putting his car in that position. Whereas before, most of the time them two would have collided in that situation previous seasons. And I think also it's shown that Max has sort of like grown up a bit as well. Do you know what I mean? Because he did the right thing by giving him the space, letting him go. Because my car's faster. Do you know what I mean? As
because
long
he
as
even said that after the race, he was like, probably before he may have gone for it,
yeah,
but he was like, obviously he knows the car's fast. I can kind of just give it.
yeah. And I think, like, I remember last season, do you know, when they had that bump in Britain, when they did it, the British GP.
Yeah,
At that time, I thought Max made a massive mistake. Didn't need to do that because I think then, if he'd have just been patient, um, he'd have beat Hamilton with the speed that he had at that race. But obviously, when you're in the moment, it's all easy for us who are sitting at home watching it to say, "Be
I
patient."
always
And
say that because like but I think what that showed though, it was definitely a sign of maturity on his behalf
yeah,
because you know for a fact, last season, the season before, he probably would have gone for it as well. Like, but what I liked was they both, even though you could say he pushed Verstappen out, like in the moment as a Verstappen fan, I'd oh yeah, he pushed. But when you actually watch it, he does leave him space. Could you have given him a bit more space? Probably, but at the same time, I think both left enough space where there didn't need to be an accident,
yeah,
and I think it kind of shows even as racers considering how competitive those two have been with incidences, that it was such a clean transaction
yeah,
overall. But then, yeah, with that Russell though, that start he had, it just feels wrong that he didn't kind of like finish. But with the race start, and then what surprised me though was the Ferraris.
yeah,
No, no, I say Ferraris, Leclerc, because I was. I don't know if I was expecting more drama at the start going into that first corner.
yeah,
In terms of, but my drama probably would have been more like crashes and impact, not with the way it happened that it ended up in the gravel, and it was just
yeah,
a weird one that there when you end up in the gravel, you're stuck. That's
yeah.
it.
You're done. Yeah,
Game's over, which
yeah,
is really weird because obviously that happened to Perez in qualifying, and it's just like it's such a weird place to get in. It's just like I think it's somewhere where you probably could make improvements so there isn't those kind of issues.
yeah,
Because I do feel, in a sense, that that particular part there did ruin the race.
yeah,
Obviously, you beach and then you can't really do nothing about it. So it was kind of annoying, but I was surprised it triggered a full on safety car
yeah.
because you could argue, was it virtual? No, it didn't even hit a virtual safety car. It was literally
No, it
straight
was
to a
straight.
full safety
Yeah,
car.
yeah, it was. Yeah,
So it was kind of a weird one seeing a safety car, like I say, in that sense. But obviously, you kind of understand why they obviously deployed safety car. But yeah, it was just a very weird thing, and I can't help but feel sorry for Leclerc because the 3 races in, and I'm not gonna lie, I've already written him out of that title race. I
Yeah.
just don't see him even challenging. It's like,
It's strange though with Ferrari because we discussed this in obviously the preseason where we were talking about they've let some of the people go who put them in the position that they were in last season with the decision making, but it seems like they've gone backwards. You know, you.
see,
Oh, the sound's gone. Has he pressed mute?
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah. Yes, I don't think it's necessarily that they've gone backwards. I think they've just pretty much stood still and not tried to improve on the issues that was their downfall last season because it was a quality car last season, but it was always the in-race strategies that really let them down because we would go from plan A to plan E,
Yeah,
and we as the fans didn't even hear what B, C, and D was. It was just like, oh, so we're just gonna jump straight to E.
yeah,
And I just feel qualifying in what was the first race? First race was Bahrain. They had a
yeah,
good qualifying, which kind of threw me off because obviously they only did the one run, which was enough to get them in the top. I think he started second, and
yeah,
then the last race obviously had the penalties, but he still kind of put in a solid performance qualifying wise. And it's just like this race, I was expecting them to at least kind of like challenge in a
yeah,
sense. But the challenge come from the team I wasn't expecting it to be in Mercedes.
yeah,
So it was just yeah, like I said, it was just really weird at how all of that kind of played out, and it's just like I don't get what they're gonna do to kind of like
yeah,
change it.
yeah, yeah. Because both of them aren't doing great. They have been putting performances in qualifying, but then the race has not been going their way. Um, and it's weird because people always say this about they've got a good qualifying car, but not a good race car. And it's like, it to me, it's weird because like, what would you prefer to have?
See, I always fight because who was is it Mercedes? I think it was Mercedes for Saudi. Was that? I think that's the race Lewis made the comment about Russell and the way he went with the setup. And I was just like, well, because obviously back in before Red Bull started to dominate again, like bring this dominance in, it was Mercedes have this qualifying mode, but it just seemed like as you say, Ferrari have a qualifying mode, but it doesn't translate over,
Yeah,
and it's strange that you can do qualifying, and then what surprises me, even in practice, they'll have the runs in practice, but then runs don't translate into race day, and you'd think we've done this in the practice, we've then got the qualifying. You must be able to find some kind of balance between the two where it then translates into race day pace.
yeah,
And I think that's where they probably really need to probably get grips on. But I just think maybe it's these races here where they may falter, but then when we get into like the European leg, it may it may switch because at the moment I can only see that side of the thing then being what actually dominates how things then move.
yeah, yeah. That's true. Definitely, it'll be interesting to see.
Now will be, but let's move on to Max takes the lead.
Yeah,
Now this one, I wouldn't say it kind of surprised me in a sense that when because so this was for the second safety car, which I saw a lot of people was a bit confused as to well why was this safety car deployed. But then when you watch it back and see how much gravel and stuff, and then there's a bit of carbon fiber that also goes on the track. It was a bit because when I was first watching, I was thinking, oh, virtual safety car. And at that point, obviously, Max was in third. And I was thinking, oh, if Red Bull was smart, send him in quickly.
yeah,
And you might be able to leapfrog both Mercedes. But then lo and behold, in comes Russell. Wait, so by this point, Verstappen had already cruised past Lewis.
yeah,
Which, again, the four DRS zones in this race, you would argue it was crazy. Like,
Yeah,
you probably could have put three, but yeah. So when Max then took that, and then obviously you then buying position, I was a bit shocked to see Mercedes didn't at least try to double stack,
yeah,
because at that point, if you're already out of the lead essentially, and you know Max is just going to cruise past, I would have just risked it, put both in that offset. But then obviously,
they wanted to keep track position. That was the thing, wasn't it? They wanted one of them to keep track position, and
and
obviously,
obviously lead car always gets the call to go in first or
yeah,
on
yeah,
strategy.
because if you'd have changed it and made it Lewis who'd come in, I think obviously he'd have been like, no, this is not what we normally do. This is not how we normally do it. Um, See, the thing is with that, with the not double stacking, I sort of understood because sometimes Mercedes have done that where they've made a decision like double stacking, and it's backfired. So I think in the back of their minds, they were also probably
They was
thinking,
probably, yeah. No, I did understand why they didn't, but it
yeah,
was one of those ones where I thought maybe they may,
yeah,
because you've got to think, Max is quick, and just on those little things when he's just cruised past you, I would have been thinking maybe any gain is a good gain.
yeah,
But then obviously when you actually transpire, then obviously we get that safety car, and obviously everything happens. Then Max has got the lead, and it was really surprising because what then unfolds is unfortunate events of the red flag.
yeah,
So obviously a lot of teams then, I'm not gonna lie, I was probably one of those ones that was a bit upset with the red flag at the time, but then you've also got to take into account that with all the debris on the track, um, it could have caused a lot more issues.
yeah. No, I'm
Like,
the same as you. When I saw the red flag, I thought, what's the need for that? They can get that sorted. But then, obviously, when they showed you replays of the debris and stuff like that, it definitely transpired that they needed to red flag it because it would have caused a lot more issues if they hadn't done.
yeah,
Um,
no. So
which
it was
obviously
really,
threw a lot of teams into disarray with the strategies that they had and everything like that. Because as much as you can plan for certain things, those things are the ones that you can't. You can do the safety cars, but I wonder how many teams say, "Oh, I reckon there'll definitely be a red flag in this, unless it's raining." Um,
yeah, because if I'm being honest, I don't think any of them teams probably even foresaw that red flag coming out for that
yeah,
race. Like, I will say that because, like I say, even as spectators, it annoys us when you see the red flag. But then it brings me on to the next point of the person who really lost out in all of that was then George. Because
yeah,
obviously he comes in pits. Then obviously you're thinking, cool, once the race gets started and underway, we'll kind of have a position because our strategies now differed from the other two because we've already pitted. They still need to pit.
yeah,
But then red flag comes out, and it's that silly rule where it goes for you sometimes and it goes against you. And for George Russell, I really feel it went against him this time
yeah,
because Max and then Lewis both got the free pit stop. And then obviously you got the other cars who were then ahead of him who also, by way of red flag, get that free pit stop. And I just think as a driver, especially him, you can only feel aggrieved and hard done by. And bearing in mind, I'm a Red Bull fan, so at the same time, I'm like, yeah, because obviously it then helps Perez, who's at the back, and then obviously Max is at the front, so it kind of plays into Red Bull's hands. But then you're still thinking, yeah, this is kind of unfair though at the same time
yeah,
because it's it is clearly unfair because you've pitted at a time when it's potential excellent call, and then now you've just been robbed of that strategy. And I think I read an article this week, and I think Martin Brundle was saying they kind of like need to look into how they basically go about doing that. And I gotta be honest, I don't think I would be angry if they brought a rule in where they stop teams from being able to change the tires and stuff at those points.
yeah,
because again, Max has benefited from it previously. Then I remember Lewis was complaining about it, and I think it was the same. I think it was Max's first title season. It happened for Max. Lewis complained, but then later on in the season, Lewis benefited from the same thing. So
Yeah.
sometimes it works in your favor, sometimes it don't. But I just think, especially on Sunday, it definitely affected Russell's race to a degree, because obviously then what we then saw was that car wasn't finishing the race.
Yeah, true. That's what I was going to say.
So for him, I'll just move the ticker onto this one. So yes, I really did feel hard for Russell, because it was an excellent race weekend, from qualifying to how he was actually racing on the day, and then something you don't even put in the same sentence with Mercedes, a mechanical failure.
Yeah.
Like it just don't seem right.
Yeah. Going back to your point though on that, them changing that safety car rule and you not being able to change your tires.
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree that they shouldn't be allowed to change their tires, because I just think it is one of those things where if you do take the risk, because that's what it is. There's certain times where you're watching the race and you're thinking, why are they not pitting yet? But it's like they're thinking a safety car could come now.
Right, for us as fans, it's a no, but see, it's not the safety car one that I have.
Yeah.
Like I don't mind.
Oh, it's the red flag. Red flag.
When it's a red flag, because obviously it's in the pit lane. Everyone gets a free pit stop. Now, what was it? What race was it?
Yeah, because the thing is, you can't risk it for thinking that it's going to be a red flag, because you never know when it's going to be a red flag. Whereas when it's a safety, I know what you mean.
I think with the, because if you think about it, I can't remember what race it was last season. Was it It might have been Belgium. It might have been Spa. Was it Spa? I think it might have been Spa, and everyone was kind of having accidents going round the track onto the grid. And then I think Perez or someone had an incident. Was it Spa? I'm trying to think even if it was last season, but there was an incident where I think it was Russell. Russell had the incident. It might have been under the safety car, but could have been a race under a safety car, and there was an incident, but he couldn't get his car back, and I think Perez got his car back to the thing, and then it was like in the rules, well, can we do this? Because technically the car hadn't been recovered. He got the car back, and it was just like a really weird one, because then you're really stretching at the rules here.
Yeah.
So I think there is like flaws where they can improve things. Oh, 1 second.
All right.
Yeah, so I think it's a real weird one where you kind of got to wonder, like I say, mainly just under the red flag. I have no issues with safety cars. I just think with the red flag one, it's a bit weird, because obviously you go back to the grid afterwards, because then that's what really surprised me after the first red flag, because obviously they went back to the grid, and Max got off well, but it nearly didn't go so well.
Yeah.
Because was Alonso in third at that point? Yeah, Alonso was in third at that point, and then he got a kind of a good start. And then it was a weird contrast of the other cars were behind, and then it really bunched up. Didn't that? I'm trying to think. Did that one then cause?
No, I think the second one was was fine. No.
Was
the one that caused carnage.
Yeah. So the first red flag was from Albon's one.
Yeah.
But that quite, you know what? Yeah, that race feel, because it went on so long time wise. Yeah. Trying to think back about it now, like I'm probably having to dig into my memory. Like it's like, what laps were they? I remember what the red flag was. Wait, yeah. Then the safety car came out for. Did it come out for Russell? I think it did. Yeah, it did. Well, the virtual safety car come out for Russell, because I kind of felt sorry for him in that incident, because he tried to go in the pit lane, but obviously everyone was coming up on the other side, and then it was like, well, I kind of have to go past the pit lane now.
Yeah.
And obviously he stops in the pit lane, well, at the end of the pit lane, because I thought at that point I thought other teams might have tried to sweep in and take advantage, but obviously because of where the car was, it then made a bit of a weird one. It was just like it was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But I definitely feel like for him, that's one of them races he'll look back and just think, uh, even though obviously it was mechanical, it's like a lot of points were lost in that race,
Yeah.
and it's just
But
like, go on.
with those mechanical ones, there's nothing that you can do. There's nothing
No,
that the team.
yeah,
It is one of those ones where if it's like a crash or something like that, or something you could have avoided, it's fair. But
oh, see, we can get to that in a minute when we talk about the crazy finish because there was a whole load of that
yeah,
that got left on the table. But yeah, that's I think, like I say, and it's not really one of those ones I'd really worry about with Mercedes because, like I say, I think they said it was their first mechanical fault since I'm gonna say 2019, but I'm pretty sure it was even before then.
yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, so it's not really something you associate with Mercedes mechanical faults, and I think that's testament to the team as a whole. The fact that even though you've had bad races, mechanical faults have never really been your downfall.
Yeah,
Because I think George Russell's always most of his have just been unlucky with contact. Hamilton's, yeah, he's had contact and bad issues, mostly namely with Max. Most of
yeah.
his tend to come. Um,
He's had a few with strategy as well. There's sometimes
yeah,
they've got the
strategy
strategy
when they
wrong.
think, but with Lewis, yeah, it annoys me because a lot of time I just feel like he's talking crap in the car. Like when his
Yeah,
tire, he starts moaning about the tires. Oh, these ain't the tires, man. Like I'm losing grip. Big man, you're telling me you're losing grip, but you're still putting in times and you're
yeah,
still making moves. So it's like, which is it? Is it
yeah.
strategy and the tires ain't working, or is the
Do you
car
know what it
not?
is though? I think sometimes how the car feels to them while they're driving it is totally different to what the
What we see makes it look different to probably what
yeah,
they're feeling.
yeah, and also what the mechanics can see on their boards. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah, because
I
that was a
agree.
weird one. Go on.
I
Oh,
agree with you that sometimes he will moan about the tires not feeling good and blah blah blah, but he's still putting the time in. He's not losing any time, and you associate tires feeling not good with either losing time or locking up, which
and he's neither
need
neighbor.
yeah,
Yeah, like I say, with the what the team see, because was it Williams last race or it could have been AlphaTauri? One of them was basically saying, "No, no, the car's fine," but the driver's like, "No, there's definitely an issue here." Yeah, but the data looks fine, and
yeah,
it's like, "Oh wait, no, look, yeah, there's something wrong with it." And it's just like it's crazy, like because I'd love to sit there on a race wall just to see how all that data is looking and just to see how they're going through their minds with the strategy in race because
yeah,
obviously before a race they'll make their strategies and it's just like then you have the in race things when it's in real time and it's just like all this day and it's like what are you really picking out from this because
yeah,
like I say we sit at home and obviously in our heads we're thinking oh yeah but if you do it like this and so we're making strategies for drivers just off the naked eye and stuff and it's just like they've got so much data in front of them because like even with Lewis and Alonso it was like well he's closing in like just make sure you've got to put the thing lap times up and it's like then Lewis is putting lap times up Alonso's putting lap times up, but the distance was never really closing. And it's just like
yeah.
how you manage that in race is crazy.
Yes, definitely,
Like, but let's move on to that crazy finish. Like that,
bro.
as as a
I'm not gonna lie. You know, after the race, and what did I do on Sunday? We ended up going out to a play center or something. And in my head, I was still thinking, that did make sense. That did make sense.
yeah, what did I do? I sat here for ages and I was listening to like a lot of the stuff after the race. Because obviously it was first thing in the morning, and I'm just like, I've been here for like over 3 hours. like watching this one race essentially, and it's just like I've seen so much. Like even sitting there, I was thinking we messaged each other on Insta like this race will probably give us talking points, and I sat there thinking, nah, this race gave more than just talking points. Like it gave a lot of things where you could throw in debates, and like I say, even with how the red flags and safety cars, and then the protocols for certain things that happen, like the second red flag, and how everything then transpired into the pit lane to where people was, and how things now have to be, and it's did they go through the first sector, and it was just like so many weird things happened.
Yeah. I felt sorry for Alpine because they were in a good position. It was them two
What
who crashed.
triggered that?
They
So the
crashed
race
into
start
each other,
happened.
didn't they?
I'm trying, yeah, because I think who was the one at the back of that? Was it Ocon?
Yeah,
Was
Ocon.
the lead? He was kind of in a place where Gasly's come across, but Gasly can't see him, and
Yeah, he can't.
Ocon's just like in that place where,
He was like a sitting duck. There was
yeah.
nothing he could do.
And then who else? Because Perez went off.
Yeah.
Um,
Alonso had an issue as well, didn't
didn't Sainz cause it with Alonso? Didn't Sainz bump
he? Yeah.
Alonso? And then yeah, it was, and then obviously Haas benefited from that at that point. They've now gone up to fourth.
Yeah.
Who else went up? I think Norris even went up.
Yeah.
It was so crazy. Like it was just like there was so much happened in that one instance, and then boom, red flag. Because I'm sitting there thinking, did anyone reach that first sector?
Yeah.
Because for me, Max and Lewis looked like they was clearly gone before any of those incidents arrived, and I'm just like, did anyone reach that first sector? Does it count from when they reach it, or do the drivers behind need to reach the first sector? Because I was confused. Like I was just like, I don't know what happens now.
Yeah, I was confused as well because
at that point, weren't they just like, well, it was just the 2 laps left, weren't there?
yeah, there were the 2 laps left. Even before they restarted that, I was sat there thinking, with 3 laps to go, did they really need to restart this?
I thought that because I was thinking there's going to be no DRS. So I was thinking Max has it nice because as long as he gets off the line, fine. They ain't catching him. And it was like, for me, I was just thinking this is now going to be between Alonso and Hamilton. Like, who's going to be the one to snatch that second? And then, like, then you get to the pit, everyone's gone back to the pit lane. And it's like everyone's in that order that obviously they've left the grid on and come into the pit lane. So I'm thinking, oh, this is actually going to be interesting now because Haas are going to score a shed load of points. Aston Martin have effectively lost points, but then it was really weird hearing from the drivers, like Alonso. The first thing he said was, "Oh well, no, we need to go back into the grid positions that we was in," and it was like interesting. Like, will that be the case?
Yeah.
Then you've got the weird one now because obviously now there's drivers who can't go back to the grid, can't reach.
Yeah. Yeah. Because when they said, obviously, we need to go back to the grid how it was because we didn't make the first sector, I was thinking Ocon and I can't remember what his name is as well.
Gasly.
Yeah. What can they do? What's their position? What do they, do you know what I mean? And to me, that probably should have been like, right, we're going to end the race on how the grid was before.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, because when they said that they're going to restart this, I thought it surely is either going to be pure carnage or people are. But the thing is, they were
first restart. It was 3 laps, weren't it? Then obviously do the formation, which then dropped it to 2.
Yeah.
So, like I say, at that point, I just thought it was going to stop.
Yeah, because you'd think either but it was always going to end one way because people would push. They're in this position where they're starting again. You are going to try overtake. Yeah.
Obviously, Sainz then got the penalty whilst in the thing.
Yeah.
And I thought, because I was listening to Crofty afterwards, and obviously he was like, it's a bit of a weird one, and it's a catch-22 because we argue that they don't bring the penalties in quick enough, and then it impacts at the end of the race, and then we moan when they do act quick enough. But it was like I say, watching it in real time, I felt sorry for him because they had the camera on him as soon as he received the news,
Yeah,
and you could see the look in his face, and it was just pain at that point because he knew no matter what happened, he wasn't finishing the points.
yeah,
Because a 5 second penalty at that point there, yeah, it crippled everything.
yeah,
Because it was a formation lap essentially, a formation which then dropped it down to one lap. Nothing was really going to happen on that one lap. I felt at that point, and it was just like I felt sorry for Sainz. It was just like he was what, fourth or fifth. He was in a decent position to pick up points, and it's like you've gone from that knowing full well everyone's going to finish within 5 seconds of you,
yeah.
and it was just like the penalty was deserved, but it was just like one of those ones. It's like, oh man, you kind of wish there was at least 2 laps
Yeah.
so we could at least try and finish
Give
10.
him that chance, yeah. What did you think to a lot of people saying afterwards that they sort of did that restart in the race just to cause excitement because so far this season hasn't been.
You know, it is. You could argue. Some people would argue that it's not been exciting. I'd argue Jeddah was exciting
Yeah,
because that was just a completely different aspect of seeing things. Max coming from where he was coming from to finish where he finished. It was a good race. You had other good parts in that race where there was good overtaking. And I just think, depending on what you're watching it for and what you're hoping to see, it will impact. Because, like I say, I get the rules work. Because at first I was thinking, but ain't we reached that time limit?
yeah,
But we hadn't reached the overall 3 hour time limit. I think we was like, might have been like 10, 15 minutes away from it.
yeah.
It was like, even though I don't agree with how the race is restarting and we kind of know it's going to finish now the way it is, it was a bit jarring. But at the same time, the rules are the rules.
Yeah,
So you kind of need to, because if you don't do it then, it's then, well, you didn't do the rules this time. And it's just like, yeah, but we did. And now you're not complaining. For the other 2 restarts, it was fun and everything. Like I say, the only one I'd say I'd have a problem with was when it was the last one.
yeah,
Because at that point, you knew nothing could happen. So it was a weird one. It was just like, okay, this is just a formality to get the checkered flag done.
yeah,
So I think, like I say, I think overall that race did deliver in
yeah,
terms of excitement. It had everything in that one race. So I don't think we could sit there and complain. But again, if they didn't follow the rules how it was, we saw what happened. We see how people moan anyway when the rules ain't followed.
yeah.
So it's just like, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. What was your point? What was your view on it?
I don't know. I do think it was because the thing is, with the restarts and when cars crash and stuff like that,
Yeah.
it's a lot of money that it costs teams and stuff like that. In terms of driver safety as well, it's a lot. I don't necessarily think that they did it to cause excitement because the race had been exciting as it was. I genuinely think they did it because they were just following the rules that they have already, that they have written.
I think it's overall, I'm going to be honest. I think it was an anticlimax. And I think that's what people probably really had the issue with, the fact that it was an anticlimax.
Yeah.
Because if there was like 5 laps to go, I don't think no one would be complaining. Because the interesting thing was, though, after the race, everyone was complaining about Max, that he should receive a thing, not realizing his wheel was touching the line. So again, it's just one of those weird ones. People look for anything.
Yeah.
And I've learned anything from this season. It's if you're not touching your line or if you're too far over, they are going to pull you up.
Yeah.
Because we've seen it in the first 2 races. Surprisingly, we didn't get one this race, so I think obviously every driver's learned their
lesson. They've learned that lesson, yeah.
Because I'm sorry, next time I see one of those penalties, if we get another one, I'm gonna be watching for when they do the pit stop.
Yeah.
Because each time the teams receive that penalty, a following penalties come,
Penalties come
or the
for
pit stops carried.
yeah,
But yeah, I just think literally because it was an anticlimax, I think that's where people stem the issue from. But I
yeah,
think if you factor in the other, we got a very great 50 laps out of it. I'll say we got 50 great laps because there was a few under safety car, a few under different things. So like I say, it was clearly a case of people didn't get the thrilling end they wanted. So it was just, oh man, like what could have been.
yeah,
And for me, that's just the way I saw it. And I just think I enjoyed what I saw. Like I say, it was I got in what about not long before one, and I had to wake up for the race, and I was like, I'm glad I woke up for the race to watch
yeah, yeah,
because that was one of those ones. If you recorded it to watch it, because I do that with boxing, like I'll record boxing, I'll avoid all social media, and then the only bonus is obviously I can fast forward in between the
the rounds.
rounds. But I'm in my head, it's still kind of live because I have no inclination of what actually happens.
Yeah,
So every minute for me at that point is I'm seeing it for the first time. And I think I would have ended up fast forwarding through a lot of those things if I watched it back. I'm like, it's a red flag. Let me just fast forward. I
yeah,
wouldn't have cared about all of that. So watching it live, it made me waking up at that time so much. It made it very worth it because, like I say, I had a buzz about me for that whole race because it was like this is fun.
yeah,
No matter which way you want to look at it, who you're following, you saw good fun racing, overtaking. There was craziness because you had was it Magnussen who him with his wheel which caused the red flag on one of them.
oh yeah, 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 yeah.
We didn't even cover that. See that even slipped my mind. It just come to me now, like the way his tire then flew up, and it was just like we're not gonna see that for a while.
Yeah,
Because it's mad to think the next race isn't until the end of the month now because there's no China.
yeah.
And I think this is even the first sprint race of the season coming up as well.
Oh, is it just? Do you know what? I'm not gonna lie. I'm not the biggest fan of sprint races.
I'm not, and I'm pretty sure they had what's his face? I forget what the McLaren guy's name is. Brown. I'm sure it's something Brown. His name slips my mind, but they had him in it, and he was basically saying how the teams were basically talking about the sprint races. I get for certain tracks it makes sense. I thought they would have had it at Jeddah. Jeddah
Yeah.
would have made more sense.
Yeah,
There's some tracks I think it makes sense to have it because did they have it last year at Spa? I think they did one at Spa last year, and I was just like, this is pointless. It's like the longest track on the calendar. For me, the sprint race should be the shortest tracks.
yeah,
Have some fun.
yeah. The reason I'm not the biggest fan of them is because they start and you start getting to it like it's a race, and then it stops.
You know, it's a weird one, yeah, because obviously it decides the grid for Sunday.
Yeah,
So it kind of gives you something, but then it makes qualifying a bit interesting. But then at the same time, it's a bit annoying because, again, like you say, you get into it and it's like a third, quarter of the laps, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh man, like I was getting into that, like
yeah,
it was getting fun. And
yeah,
it's like now you're taking it away. Now I've got to come back tomorrow. And I was just like, oh man, like yeah, no. So I think if you did it at the fastest tracks, it makes sense.
yeah.
Baku don't make no sense to have a sprint.
No,
race,
it doesn't. No,
honestly.
yeah, it doesn't.
And like it's just a weird one. I just again like you, I'm again I get you want to make it more fun for the fans, but I don't really think a sprint race. I think if you polled a lot of fans, a lot of them will say, yeah, it's fun, it's something else to watch. But I think a lot of them would say I would scrap it
Yeah,
if it meant like for the race days. I would scrap it if I'm being honest. Because you talk about saving costs, and I don't really feel you save that much by not having. No, wait, because you don't even save nothing
no,
effectively because you still do all three practices. You do qualifying on because that also throws me off when you do qualifying on a Friday.
yeah.
Because now I need to make sure I'm available for Fridays.
That's the thing as well. It just changes everything, doesn't it?
And you know what makes it even more annoying? Because those sessions, I'll be at them qualifying sessions. I'm potentially at work for.
Yeah,
And then I'm in my new role. I can't even just sit there and watch it. watching the weigh-in last Friday in itself was a task. I'm just like, I ain't got that freedom no more. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna be honest, I can't rewatch qualifying once it's done because somehow it's just one of those things I can't avoid. I come across it somehow.
Yeah.
Or if I
Trying
go
to
to my
avoid.
mum's house, my brother will tell me, and it's just like, oh man, I ain't watched it yet.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's definitely one of those things. Trying to avoid the like. Obviously, I didn't get up to watch it on time because I'd stayed up watching the boxing and watching all the reaction to the boxing and got sucked into the wormhole that you do when
Like you can
you
go
know
down rabbit holes when you
yeah,
start with that, man. It's
yeah, do you know what
crazy.
I mean? And going back and watching an AJ fight that I was impressed with his performance just to get myself out of that, do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I was knackered the next morning and got up at 7 and it had already started, but I think I wasn't far off. It might have been 15 minutes or something.
Yeah, because I missed the first few laps, and because of the first red flag, I was able to rewind and go back.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I was in the same, but like normally something will flag up on your phone, like Sky Sports will tell you who's won
I
the
see. I
race.
turned their
Or
notifications off because them people will ruin everything for you. I learned that the hard way. They will ruin your avoiding stuff
yeah,
and
so
making sure notifications don't actually read on your phone. Also a
yeah,
lifesaver.
yeah, 100%. The
Although
other thing that I wanted to discuss with you, or ask you your opinion, what do you think would have happened if um when Hamilton and Russell got in front, and if they'd have got into a position where them two would have been racing, do you think they'd have let them race, or do you think they'd have said to them, guys, we're in a position where we could get a 1-2, let's
I
not risk?
think I think Saudi answered that
Yeah,
because remember they told basically told Russell to kind of let Hamilton go by, and
yeah,
he was like, "Nope, I'm not doing it,"
yeah,
and he just raced. I like it because they will let them race, but I do think at some point, again, it's that weird one. At some point in the season, you'll have to draw a line because there's clearly going to be a number one and number two. It's just like, if we're being honest, as much as people probably will say it wouldn't happen, if Perez was coming up and he was like the last few races, but he had a lead, but if Max could finish first every race and win with Perez finishing second, they would still get Perez because he's in that commanding position. So I think you will get to a point where you have to draw a line and say, no, this is number one. Even though Max is their guy, I think you get to a point in the season where you have to draw a line and say, that's number one. We're doing that. Because, like, even in that race on Sunday, you saw obviously Russell got to come in first
yeah,
because that's the way they do it. Whoever's in the lead gets to basically have the say. And I think if I'm the team principal, if I'm being honest, even though he won't want to be that guy, I don't think I'm subconsciously, even though you will still have him there, I think you've kind of got to look past that. Russell's kind of leaning into the number one driver now
yeah,
because he's your future essentially.
yeah,
Like, not saying Hamilton's in that role now where you're just competing because I do feel there's races where he will turn up, but I looking at it now, if I'm being honest, I do feel Russell, since he's gone to Mercedes after last season, I think he showed enough in that season. And I think already qualifying stuff, he's showing enough that he can be the number one.
yeah,
And I do feel, yeah, I just feel to begin with, they'll let them race, but then you'll get to a point where they're like, no, let's just play for position now.
yeah,
But I think in order to do that on a race day at this stage of the season, it would probably be like the last 6, 7 laps. I think they were like, look, let's hold
yeah,
fire now. It's kind of how we're set in stone. Whereas I look at a team like Ferrari and you just kind of know, even though they're going to say it, both of them are still just going to want to race against each other.
yeah,
Like Max is going to disobey it to race against Perez, and I think Perez will do the same. Whereas I think George and Russell will essentially play that team game.
yeah. Just 1 second, bro.
Yep.
Yeah, nah,
Yeah.
you know, you just said George and Russell, by the way.
Oh, sorry, my bad. Russell and
Hamilton
Hamilton.
and Russell.
I don't even know where my mind was. Yeah, no. So Russell, and I think they're more of a will play by the teams kind of thing.
Yeah.
But on that now, who was your driver of the day?
I'm gonna. It's Max. He was just so like.
See, I normally I would agree because it's Max,
Yeah.
but I feel Perez got it from obviously the fans,
Yeah.
and I'm not mad at that because I think when you actually look what he did a good job,
Yeah.
and it kind of surprises me that I was to and fro in between who I would have as my driver today, because with how Alonso finished, I thought he probably would be my strong pick.
Yeah.
But just based on everything, and I know he was overtaken and didn't win the race, but I feel for me, Lewis was kind of my driver of the day
Yeah.
because I feel what he showed on race day. Like I say, it's that weird one because he's showing he still got it, but obviously the car's not really competing. But I feel what I saw from him on Sunday, it was positive. Didn't
Yeah.
really hear him moan as he did have that moan when I think they went on the hard tires. But then I think that little tactical, like little edge he had when Alonso was closing in, he was able to kind of pull away and keep that distance. And then it's like he knew he couldn't beat Max, so he didn't really try to chase him down as such. So I think it was because, like I say, if we're being honest, if them cars didn't come out and Max didn't have that little silly mistake, we would have still been in a probably close to a 15-second lead at that point. I think at one point it was 11 seconds. Then he had the issue with the tires, went off, and I think he lost like 4 seconds. So it
Yeah.
closed the gap. But I just feel Lewis in what he was doing with Alonso, because I enjoyed their battle, even though it wasn't a full on battle. It got to the point where you saw moments where Alonso was closing, but Lewis was smart and did what he needed to do to then create that gap so DRS wasn't in play.
Yeah.
So I just think overall for me, which again, like I say, it surprises me because I probably would have gone Perez or Max,
Yeah.
but I feel for what I saw on Sunday, I'd have to edge it to Lewis because I was impressed with his race on Sunday. Like it was completely different. And like I say, overall, but the crazy thing was that obviously the final three, the only world champions still on the grid, all hit the podium.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those nice ones that it's like, right, like we've got literally a little generational error here. Like we've got
Yeah.
the old guard, the man that then came next, and then obviously Max now with the new heir to the throne. And I think this season, not so much Hamilton,
Yeah.
but I think we will see Verstappen and Alonso sharing a lot of podiums this season.
Yeah. 100%. I do agree. I don't know if Mercedes will be able to get that because they're talking about the improvement of the car. Is it when it comes to the European races?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's interesting because the European like part of the season seemed like a lot of teams that's where they're bringing their upgrades.
Yeah.
So it's kind of surprising that everyone's targeting them races as this is where we're going for. Because if we look at it, I'm gonna bring up the constructors. Every team this season so far scored some form of points in the constructors, which they didn't happen last year, did it?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think it did. Yeah, then you look at it, Aston Martin, solid second.
Yeah.
Picture here actually. Let me just see if I still got it on here. Like I say, it's an interesting one. It won't be that big though, I don't think. Yeah, so look, here's the thing. You got Red Bull clear out front. Second place is clearly going to be. I think that's going to be definitely a battle between Mercedes and Aston Martin.
Yeah.
Ferrari, I think, are going to end up in a dogfight with McLaren unless they can get some consistency. because I think McLaren will come good because I think they was talking about the part of the season being their domination. But if you look at the constructors, like it's already slightly pulling away essentially for like the top three.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it's going to be, and I just think McLaren and Ferrari will definitely battle it out for fourth. And I would no, I think no, I think they should edge fourth. I think they should edge fourth.
Yeah.
I don't think McLaren have got enough like fifth, sixth places in them to kind of challenge for the season, like to beat them. But obviously, it's more the higher you finish up, the more money. And I think finishing higher up this season will benefit them going into next season.
Yeah. I think Ferrari again, you never know. They could just turn it around. You never know. But they're the team that when we first obviously looking at this season and thinking how this season was going to go, we both thought it was going to be Red Bull and Ferrari again fighting for it.
I know I had Aston Martin as my dark horse.
Yeah.
Corrupt things, but they look like they're just some serious play because
Yeah.
even scoring points.
I had Aston Martin as someone that could challenge, but maybe they're not quite there yet. But it seems like, boy, they're there.
Engine's working for them.
Yeah.
Which then kind of begs the question: what have Mercedes them like? Obviously, it's down
It's the car, though, isn't it? It's
yes,
the car.
I just think their concept for the car is clearly backfired, and it's kind of weird when you think about it because they had the same issues last season.
Yeah,
and it's like you've kind of gone with this, not the same. I think did they have the no side pods last season as well? I think they did. So you've kind of got that issue, and you've kind of stuck to it, and it's kind of shooting you in your foot right now.
the problem is stubbornness, bro. That's the problem. These people sometimes are just far too stubborn with certain things. If something's not working,
sometimes you got to fix it, man.
Yeah.
I think the interesting one will be how do teams negate the superiority of the Red Bull DRS?
Yeah.
Because I think that's where teams have probably got to focus first.
Yeah.
Straight line speed, because I'm not gonna lie, watching that car on a straight,
it's rapid, isn't it? Yeah, it's just
breathtaking and it's scary.
Yeah.
I wanted to try and get. I don't even know why I thought I could even attempt to do it once the season has started. I should have just did it when I got the email prior to the season ending for Silverstone this year. But I think no, I tell a lie. When I actually did look at trying to get tickets, I think the website crashed and there was issues.
Oh, okay.
And then by the time it come back round to it, I completely forgot to even attempt to get tickets.
Yeah.
But that's on it's on my bucket list to do. I need to go and just see a race live.
Yeah.
Because I think that would definitely alter like the race experience of watching from home, essentially. Because
yeah,
we got the luxury of being able to sit on board with every driver from the camera thing, and it's just like to see, even though it's a split second you're seeing it for, it's that adrenaline just watching.
Yeah, 100%. Do you know what my missus has been? She went to the Spanish one.
Oh, Barcelona.
Yeah, and she said when they were, because like her brothers are all big F1 fans, and Lewis crashed in the first lap, and they were like, imagine going all the way out there and him crashing. I mean, they go to the British one every year, book their stuff early and go every year. So they luckily they've seen him a few times there. But yeah, they went to the Spanish one and they were just like, but they were like, it's just so loud.
An international one, like
which one would you do?
I don't know. I know because like G's doing. I think he wants to do Vegas this year. Vegas would be fun.
Yeah,
because it's got that weird. It's a different feel for Vegas, and I can get that.
Yeah.
But if I was to do any, like Spa appeals to me, but I think I'd want to do Monza or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Because it's not the longest circuit.
Yeah.
It's also a fast circuit. so it's a bit, but yeah, I think Monza and the way their podium is, I just think that one would probably. It's like, yeah, this feels like a vibe
Yeah,
because the Dutch Grand Prix that's appealing, but it doesn't. It's so new back to Formula One,
yeah,
like so it's not got that feel to it yet. Like,
yeah,
oh, yeah, this is a must watch race. Whereas you got Spa, that's just Eau Rouge, and it's got a thrill there.
yeah,
Monza, it has it all. Like, it's a fast track, the home of Ferrari. Yeah, it has that side thing. But yeah, no, I think those two races would probably be like top of my list. Let me see what other races there are. I can't even think of any others that probably scream out.
the number one on my bucket list would probably be Canada, and that would be the number one on my
That's
list.
actually not a bad shout, you know. I didn't even
Yeah,
think about that one.
yeah, that would be the number one on my list. And then
Actually,
in
I'm lying. Sao Paulo, that one would probably be,
oh yeah, true, yeah,
yeah, there's just something about that track. That track,
yeah, yeah, true. That's a good point.
yeah, I think that one would actually seal it for me, you know.
Yeah,
It's kind of weird that we don't finish with that as the final race of it.
yeah, no, that is still proper strange to me as well. When I
Yeah, I think we
watch it,
should
I
do
always
it.
feel like I'm watching this should be the last one.
And this year it's going to be weirder because obviously it's the third from last race.
Yeah, that's the thing about money though. Money talks, doesn't it?
Because I understand Abu Dhabi being the final. It don't surprise me that that is the final. Because as a stage and a grand finale, it has that feel about it.
Yeah,
But Sao Paulo, the richness in history there is kind of what makes me think, yeah, we should still be there for the
yeah,
final race of the season. Maybe one
yeah.
day, nah, now Las Vegas is there. It wouldn't even surprise me if that eventually battles to become the final race of the
The
season.
final race. Yeah,
Because I remember
yeah.
when Red Bull was doing the promos for that and he was driving through a casino. I was like, imagine you're just there gambling and this loud F1 car just comes racing past you. You're playing cards and all of a sudden you see a Red Bull just drive. I was like, yeah, no, it's just, it seems mad. But it seemed like that as a race for a street circuit. It's weird though, because I need to look into that because time wise and everything, I need to know how that's going to work.
Yeah.
Because they're 8 hours behind me. Do I need to be waking up on like a Monday morning to be watching this race here? Because it's backwards when I'm watching basketball and
Yeah.
stuff. That 8 hour difference makes a big impact.
I can't remember now. But
I can't
yeah,
remember what they said. I need to look into it, but I can't remember what they said. But yeah, no,
yeah,
overall, I think, yeah.
yeah. Do you want to do the predictions for the next race now, or do you want to do another video doing the
I say we'll do
prediction?
another video because I need to see what my predictions are because I might need to redo my video of my son on that one because
Oh, okay.
I think I've got Ferrari finishing like gloriously in that one too. And I'll look at my prediction. I can't remember what my prediction for that one was.
Yeah.
But then we can get Mr. A on as well. We can do a
Oh,
prediction.
okay. Yeah, yeah,
I think,
yeah,
and I think going forward we will do like a race review and then we can just do like a recap as well. But yeah, now this race might end up being the race of the season
yeah. No, yeah,
just
definitely could
for
be.
everything that was involved.
Yeah. I don't know though because there is some other races where there isn't long straights and that much DRS that might give a more competitive feel to the races.
I think DRS helped. Other than Red, if you rule Red Bull out, I think the DRS for this race was good for most teams because it did present battles in between, like in the middle of the track. But I just think because you see Red Bulls and how superior it is, like the effect it has, I think it kind of overshadowed it in a
Yeah,
sense for everyone. But I think when you actually look down the race, like when the race was going on, there was a lot of decent action thanks to like the DRS zones because every other team it feels like it's more balanced between the rest of the field.
yeah,
Red Bulls just seems disgustingly crazy.
yeah,
Like it's yeah, theirs is just crazy.
yeah. I think Max has got the car working for him as well, the way he's driving it. Perez has, but I think Max is getting the most out of that car.
I think Perez was just a very poor weekend because it wasn't just qualifying. I just think his whole weekend proved to be pretty poor.
Yeah,
And again, it was one of those ones where Max managed to get it, other than when it was wet, which was P2 when Alonso had the better of it. I think as a as if a circuit's dry, I think we're going to be in that position where we are just looking at Max to probably dominate at the moment.
yeah,
And then it will be kind of like the battle of the rest.
yeah.
But it's like I said, it's going to
Mike.
be interesting. What's the score now? Is it 5?
5-1. Yeah, 5-1. West Ham are getting cooked, bro.
Yeah, no, I just saw Man United 1-0, and then I happened to glance down and see Madrid are 4-0 up.
Who are they playing against?
Barcelona in the
Oh,
Copa del Rey semi.
oh wow.
But let
Yeah.
me just hit the end of record for this one, but on to the next one, and we'll do when's the next race? End of the month, so we'll do a prediction probably in the week leading up. So
Yeah. Yeah, good chat, man. Take care.
in a bit.